Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me for this edition of Business Over Brunch. My name is Kima, and I am your podcast host. We're talking about beauty, so we'll be bringing in different insiders, contributors, anything you want to know about beauty. And so I'm super excited today to be talking with Miss Josanta. So if you're interested in getting your products to retail or learning how to create some collaborations, you definitely want to be tuned in here. So Josanta is the founder of Grayscale Media. And she also has courses on From Gray to Green, which teaches you some of the things that she does with her clients to create some of these wonderful collaborations. But I'll let her tell you about that. So, Josanta, thank you so much for joining me today. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me. I always love speaking to other entrepreneurs and people that bet on themselves.
Absolutely. That's what we're here to do, help people get themselves together and get them right. So before we get started, of course, it's Saturday, it's brunch time. I'm sipping on a little blueberry pomegranate moscato because it's brunch or it's 5 o'clock somewhere. What are you sipping on for brunch today?
So I've got the Boss cup here. So I got a little matcha chai tea happening because
Ooh.
in true entrepreneur fashion, after brunch, I have to go to work. So I didn't want to have too many mimosas, and then that mimosa nap catches up with me, and then I don't do what I'm supposed to do.
Absolutely, absolutely. I've tried matcha. I couldn't really get into it, but I have found that my taste buds are changing, so I may give it another try. So,
I'll give you what I get at Starbucks. 'Cause, like it might be like the taste of it, and like if you had one that was like really ground up and you could taste the powder, like that's probably
uh,
from it.
so we'll definitely connect, and I'll get your inside secret later. All right. So, Josanta, thank you again so much for joining me for brunch. So, we're going to go ahead and jump right into it. So, you are like hands in to beauty, indie beauty brands. You've done so much. What was your first experience with beauty? Like, when did you realize that it was what you wanted to do, and how has that driven your career choices?
It's such a great question because I've always been drawn towards beauty and can't really even pinpoint like my first moment of aha. And really, when I think about my connection to the industry and just joy for various products, it goes back to actually my mom and like me playing in her makeup. She always wore a classic red lip. I'm very much so her daughter. And that just carried on. And then once I started actually working at the talent agency CAA, I was in the licensing department, and you become a little bit of a generalist. Your clients are interested in various categories, but I just naturally gravitated towards working on beauty brands and working with our female clients. That's what I knew best, and especially being one of the only females, one of the only people of color in that department. If I do a wig deal for a client, my male counterpart's not going to know about
Right.
and edges and stuff. So it became a way for me to stand out, actually.
Absolutely. I love it. And, everybody has their why. And that's what I'm really learning with the beauty industry. Somebody is not just because they wanted to have a lip line or they wanted to have a nail polish line. It's pretty much out of a need or, their love, for the industry and different things. So when you were at CAA with licensing, what were some of your responsibilities or the requirements that you had to have for the role? And how did that kind of prepare you for what you do now with Grayscale Media?
Yes. So with that particular department, as we all know, when we watch our favorite celebrities announce that they have clothing lines, makeup lines, there are really people like myself in that department who are working behind the scenes. Because our favorite musicians, they go on tour, but they might have passion projects and want to launch a cosmetics line. And so it's myself and someone in that department who's making sure that deliverables are getting out to the partner in a timely fashion, making sure that they attend photo shoots, coming up with strategies about where the products could live at retail, and then also thinking through marketing strategies and capacities. I actually, when I first graduated college, wanted to be a journalist. I thought I was going to be on air next like AJ. And I had kind of a mini midlife, early life crisis, and realized I wear my heart on my sleeve. I get very attached to people and projects, and journalism and news can be very, very heavy, especially if you're dealing with just negative things that are happening out in the press. And so I actually started interning at CAA at first, so worked my way up from intern to agent. and just fell in love with the licensing department. I love being able to put together partnerships on behalf of the roster and really get involved in helping them to build businesses and not making them like, oh, it's a one-off, deal here, making something long-lasting.
Awesome. I'm seeing that trend of a lot of people like us who are in PR or different things who said, journalism was where we thought, and then something, that aha moment clicked, and then we completely, transitioned, because I wanted to be an investigative reporter, and then did an internship in PR and was like, oh, I think I like this better. So, you always click with what you love and what you're meant to do, no matter what your initial thought was. So I love that.
Thing that happened to me, I was in investigative news for my internships. And for class, you had to go out in the field and, do stories on people and bring it back for your professor to grade. And long story short, I found a woman who was HIV positive. And I asked, how does your family deal with this? And she told me her family didn't know. So she was using my article as a way to come out to her family and actually confess that she'd been going through this for years. When I tell you I went out to my car and cried and bawled my eyes, I was like, I can't do the rest of my life. Like, this is what people do on the daily, where people are sharing out their stories, and like, you're responsible for making sure that it's great, you're doing right by them. No, I can't be crying every day at work.
Right. I'm kind of the same. I thought I was going to be a psychologist too. So I had a little, life finding. And then, I was watching an interview a few weeks ago, and as the person was interviewing, kind of like you with the lady, I was sitting here in tears. I'm like, can you imagine me counseling somebody and I'm crying right along with them? So
right. Like, pass me the Kleenex.
Right. So it's always, things bring us full circle. Now, you mentioned that you did your internship. You started off as an intern and then moved to agent. So, of course, were there anything additional that you had to do, like go back and take additional classes, or did they give you like continuing education to help you develop in that role?
I went above and beyond to try to, I guess, prove my ability and worth to get promoted. But I must say, internally, it was more so, it's a Hollywood agency. So sometimes I think Hollywood and the entertainment industry gets a bad rap where you don't necessarily need excess formal education. Oftentimes it's not what you know, it's who you know. And even on top of that, it's who knows you.
Right.
For you to get to these particular roles. But because I was so passionate about the topic, and I worked for a wonderful boss who really took me under his wing, and he himself loved being an educator. So he made it okay for me to come to him. Like, I would read his contracts, like, hey, what does this section mean? And he would walk me through. And I think that's really important upon your journey when you're trying to learn, is being able to have that safe space to ask questions and not feel like, oh, they're gonna, look at me a certain type of way because I'm supposed to know. But at that time, I took it full advantage. And then within the industry, there's an annual conference called the Licensing Show that happens every year in Vegas. I paid out of pocket at the time when I was an assistant. Really, they were only paying for the agents to go. And I'm in LA. Vegas is only a 4-hour drive. So it was me and another colleague of mine. We rented a car. We drove to Vegas. We rented a room at Hooters Hotel because that's what we could afford at the time. And we went to the conference, and we learned so much. So I took it upon myself to not always look for them to invest in my education, because sometimes frankly, companies just don't do it.
Right.
They don't look at the repercussions of, okay, if this person does work here for 5-6 years and we don't invest in our professional development, what does that mean for you? So I took it upon myself to like, look, I might not work here forever, but I want to take these skill sets somewhere else.
Right. I definitely agree with that. And, for those people who are watching and are publicists or are not publicists, there's an organization that I'm a part of called Women in PR. And, our founder, Angie, is always, you have to invest in yourself. You have to take the time out to, learn what's out there. With us being in beauty, getting familiar with the different trade shows, getting familiar with the different conferences, buyers opportunities, magazines, blogs, different things like that. You can't just wait, for those opportunities to come. You do have to, show the initiative to show what you're capable of. So I definitely love that. Mm-hmm. So with all of that and your transition to Grayscale Media, what did that look like for you when you transitioned into, having your own agency and then having to focus on your, your own client roster and how you decided who you want to work with?
I will be completely honest, because I know this is safe space over brunch. I was ignoring God's calling to the T. I very much so had gotten to a point in my career where I was like, all right, let me look for the next thing and figure out what I want to work on. And I had it in the back of my mind of, okay, if I were to start my own company, I would call it Grayscaled Media, because I already had a logo made from years ago when I was trying to legitimize some of my side hustles. And like, I don't want to send out a little blank invoice with just my name on it. We put a logo on it to make me look a little more professional for these things that I'm doing on Fiverr or whatever. So I had it in the back of my mind of what I felt like I would offer, because basically my main services were my pain points across my professional career. So I recognize if you're an indie brand and you've never done a brand partnership, you're probably questioning, how do I contact a Cardi B? How do I work and do a collaboration with a Gabrielle Union? And I wanted to be able to walk people through that process. And then the second half being, when I ran operations for a cosmetics company, I remember being in my office crying over contracts from retailers and banging my head against the wall again on C12 in the Excel document will turn green, and like they won't accept it, and just not knowing what to do. So I was just like, I don't want someone else to go through this. Like, these can be legitimate services, because I went through these pain points and let me solve this problem. But I ignored all of these thoughts. And one of the reasons that I went ahead and moved forward was there was actually June's Diary, a girl group that's like up and coming, that I did a collaboration with previously. And one of the girls was promoting this like edge control brand, like, oh, it's so great, it's so good, you should get it. Well, I looked up where the edge control was sold, and the closest was like in Inglewood. So if you know LA, I'm in the Valley. Like, I don't want to drive 45 minutes of an hour to go buy some edge control. Okay?
Exactly.
I've passed up a million other beauty supply stores at this point. So I was like, you know what? I should reach out to her. That she obviously has a great relationship with this company. Maybe I can help them secure distribution, and that would be some low-hanging fruit. Start out, being a first client. Didn't do it. I ignored my thought. I was like, imposter syndrome set in, like the audacity to me to think that I could do this. Mm-hmm. Well, one day I woke up and I had a text message from her. Hey, haven't talked to you in a while. Wanted to just check in with you. Are you still working with the company? I would love some products. There was absolutely no reason but God that she reached out to me. There were other people that she could have did that with. So that happened again in another form. So I had two kind of like thought it, and then it came to fruition. And so I was like, let me stop messing around. We file this LLC, make this website. I'm going to go forward with doing those two main services. Initially targeting indie brand founders in beauty, because I know that the best.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. We hear that a lot about people saying, I heard it, I saw it, I envisioned it, and I'm like, okay, it's not time. Okay, maybe I can't do it. We all think about those things. But I'm glad that you, finally got that call and say, okay, girl, it's time to wake up. Let's move together with this. So with working with her, starting off, and with working with indie beauty brands, what are some of the key areas of opportunity that you see with brands when they're launching or when they're attempting to even move into retail?
So initially, always when starting out, I always try to make sure that founders understand the problem that they're solving, and that they understand who their target audience is before moving into retail. Because a lot of common misconceptions of, oh, I'm going to put my products in Sephora, I'm going to put my products in Ulta. They think, all right, I'm going to get the purchase order, they're going to put me in all of their marketing, and it's going to blow up. It's going to be good. But the retailer really is going to be looking at you to say, all right, what customer are you bringing into my stores? Or if I already have this particular target demo, how are you going to pull them away from a pattern? If you have a hair care line, or if you're launching a cosmetics line, what is your point of difference where you're going to capture them because they're already in the store collecting Fenty or whatever. So I think before truly transitioning into retail, you have to really have a good understanding of what you're bringing to the table from a marketing perspective. And then you also have to have a really good grasp of your numbers. Retail is expensive. There's absolutely no reason why a brand can't just exist on .com, and that's totally fine. I think sometimes we have this, I'm used to going in the store and grabbing X brand, so we have that thought and that wish for ourselves. Right. And there's nothing wrong with it. but we don't understand the economics. Like, we get to keep more of the money if we're selling direct to consumer on our own website, but then when you're selling to a retailer, they want it at a wholesale price, and then there's marketing that you're going to have to pay for. If you're doing cosmetics, you have fixtures and hair tools, and there's certain boxes and things that are going to go on the shelf that start to really eat up the cost that a lot of times founders underestimate.
Wow, that is a lot of information to even consider. I knew things about like shelf location and shelf pricing, but you really gave a whole lot more into that pile to consider, especially with like packaging and appearance and, different things like that. Mm-hmm. So let me ask you this. Within the last year, of course, we know there's been this big push on diversity, and Ulta and Sephora have made, several commitments to minority-owned beauty brands. And I think Ulta has really like stepped up, to the plate. So how can brands by persons of color, minority-owned brands, how can they take advantage of that right now while there's still opportunity to be featured? And do they have any leeway, so to speak, because they are minority-owned, or is the thought process still the same?
That's a great question and perspective to think it through. I don't want to say there's leeway for you. Like, at the end of the day, you got to get on the shelf, and then you got to get the customer to purchase. Like, the sales have to be there. They're just going to keep you there because, like, it's a Black-owned brand that's checking the box for us. There are plenty of others that are actually going to bring the customers, get people to cart, and drive the total brand awareness. And you're absolutely right. A lot of these retailers are doing a great job of creating the opportunities and the shelf space. I actually do work with Sephora and their Accelerate program, and have helped mentor some of the brands that have been through the program, really advising them on like retail operations and things that they should be thinking of. A lot of what we just discussed, from like the finances, what you should do with your sales reports. But I think in order to get on the radar of the people who oversee those particular brands, one, you have to submit to those opportunities. So setting some Google alert, or just being mindful of the cycle of those applications. Secondly, making sure from a visual standpoint that your packaging is ready and that you have all of those things together. And if they were to ever ask for samples, that you're not sending faulty, defective things with spelling errors. And then the third capacity, which is a great component, is really also looking at your PR. A lot of the buyers, they are reading some of the same articles that we are, 10 best foundations to use for women of color, or here's 12 red dupe lipsticks for a Revlon red that are from POC, same for skincare. So if you really do increase some of your press clippings and your awareness that's out there, it will naturally fall on the desk of some of these buyers, and you can find yourself being approached by them directly.
Right. That's absolutely a good point to make. On one of our earlier episodes, we had one of my friends who's based here with me, who has a skincare line, and she had some of those same points, based upon the PR and her packaging. She was actually picked up, in a couple of different other opportunities. So you definitely want to make sure that you're ready at all times. And I like the fact of thinking, ahead of, what to consider. So if someone, like you mentioned, it's nothing wrong with staying completely online, direct to customer. But for someone who says, okay, I don't want to go into retail, but you have to be ready for the opportunity when it presents itself, how far ahead should someone think, okay, if this opportunity presents itself, I need to have, X amount months worth of product, or how many press clippings should I be looking for? Like, what do you think is a minimum standard for someone to be ready to move into that retail environment?
So it's going to depend on the type of retailer and which bucket they fall in, because if you're on .com only, you might then decide, hey, I want to go the boutique route, or if you have hair care products, maybe you want to go the salon route. So that's going to have a different requirement than maybe a Black and Green, which is another e-commerce website that's dedicated to POC products. Marjani Beauty, 13 Loon, that's another bucket of just different companies and what their requirements are. And then you have like Urban Outfitters, and then you have Target and Walmart. So all of them are going to have various requirements. The easy, lower hanging fruit, and probably from a company operation standpoint of getting the product out there, your boutique salons, and probably even those e-commerce websites that I mentioned are going to be a little bit easier for you to work with. And the lead time it doesn't necessarily need to be as long, because they're going to order from you probably in very lower quantity. So maybe like 12 units here or there, 12 units per SKU. So you already might have that within your arsenal. But then when you're talking the Targets, the Sephoras, the Ultas of the world, or if you're trying to go international and you want to be in boots, you're probably looking at needing at least 6 months to a year to properly prepare. And that's coming from inventory, depending on how many stores they want to put, even initially, if it's 100 stores, if it's 500 stores. That's also coming from lead times for retailers. So right now we're in summer, the month of June, and some of the retailers are already planning. I'm having conversations with clients, with retailers for 2023.
Wow.
Some we're in conversations for next year in January, but we're talking pretty far out, 2023 for one of my clients, and we've been talking with them since the beginning of the year. So it's gonna vary depending on category, what they have available, when they're willing to slot you in. A bunch of unknowns, but that's it in a nutshell.
Wow, that is a lot. Josanta, you are dropping so many different things. So let's talk about from gray to green real quick, because you're giving out some pretty good information, and we want people to know how they can get this really in detail. So what was your transition, or what was your moment to say, okay, I'm doing this, but people may not be able to afford me, or they have like you said, they're in different levels. How can I get them started? So what made you decide to launch From Gray to Green, and what is that about?
Yeah, so From Gray to Green is my online school specifically for entrepreneurs, to walk them through just certain aspects of business that maybe me as a person, as a consultant, as a founder running Grayscaled Media, that I can't do because I'm just one person. I'm also a solopreneur. I have a very, very small team, really just of interns that are kind of helping me with more From Gray to Green stuff versus Grayscaled. And because my mission is to educate and reach as many people as possible, I can't physically do that through Grayscaled and the work that I'm doing. There's only so many hours in a day. So I created From Gray to Green and created these courses to allow people, especially those that maybe not ready for a consultant or someone at my level just yet, because sometimes I get questions of, sis, where do I start?
Right.
Well, how do I even find the manufacturer? What do I ask as far as these questions? So that's kind of what How to Build a Product Business does. I'm walking you through questions you should ask your manufacturers, and also the terminology, because I think that's generally what keeps some entrepreneurs up at night, because we can Google a lot of things, but there are certain places that and uncharted territories you'll go into where Google just isn't enough. And so I'm trying to slot myself in for those moments where I know Google isn't enough. I want to package it together. Here, use Shopify. Here, this is how you should pitch yourself to a retailer. And then once that happens, maybe you are ready to transition into being an official client of mine. But really, yeah, From Gray to Green, it's an online school meant to provide just resources to entrepreneurs that are starting out, that are at various levels. So I do have a blog on there that has free business tips, and then you can also sign up for my newsletter, because I'll try to package some of these gems into themes for email, depending on where you are. Awesome.
And are the courses, I know you said entrepreneurs, are they beauty industry specific, or anybody can take the courses, or does it tell you?
Anyone can take the courses. In my examples, I use a lot of beauty examples because that's where I'm coming from. But a lot of the questions that are in there in the pitches are applicable even if you have a fashion brand. Right.
So Josanta, guys, I hope y'all are taking notes, because I'm already overwhelmed with the information that we've gotten today. I'm super excited.
I try not. I just start rambling and everyone's like, oh my God, what did you just say? My bad. Okay.
No, it's not you at all. It's just things that you didn't think to consider, when you're going over, different things like this. And of course, this is where you lie. This is your lane. So of course, it's just going to come out naturally. So I'm super excited, and I'm definitely going to be checking out From Gray to Green to get some more knowledge, for myself with helping clients in the beauty industry. So Josanta is also a consultant, like she said, with Grayscale Media. So for someone who is looking to work with you, what are some things they should already bring to the table? I know a lot of times we'll get somebody and say, just can you help me? And like you said, I don't know where to start, but we do have, our limits or our minimums of what we want you to have so we can be ready to take the reins and move forward. So if somebody wants to work with Grayscale, what should they have already?
Yes, I think at this particular point, because Grayscale for me is only 2 years old. So I'm still new and trying to scale and give advice just like the rest of them, but obviously in a different capacity. But if you're approaching me as a potential client, for me, it's best if you have an understanding about whether or not you're looking to go into retail or not, and figuring out, like with me, what are the lanes that we can kind of work on together. Are you coming to me because you have some budget and you would like to do brand partnerships and you want me to reach out to talent on your behalf to create robust licensing deals? So, and I'm not talking about like, oh, I got $2,000 and I need to like get someone to pay to post. So I'm talking about a little bit more thinking,
Right.
what would I pay a Pretty V or a B Simone, someone with like millions of followers, as far as like robust partnerships. And then on the retail end, the best clients for me typically are ones that are ready to go ahead and launch or explore, because I'm happy to walk you through kind of the audit process of what you need to be thinking about. But typically you're ready to go into retail. We'll figure out the strategy. And then additionally, a lot of my clients also have incoming retail requests. If you have incoming retail requests, then you really view me as like, look, she's going to take this weight off. I have clients who will just, they'll get an email from Ulta and they'll forward it to me. And I'm like, hey, girl, I know I've already talked to you because we're already connected on a bunch of other brands. Yep, it's me again. I'm representing so-and-so. So you already know what I'm about to ask. I'm about to ask margins that you want. So incoming retail requests, and then anyone that's just looking to kind of set their strategy, and I can help them reach out to appropriate brands or appropriate retailers, I should say.
Awesome. So guys, if you are thinking about launching a product, or more specifically launching into retail, and you're ready with the inventory, the budget, the right things, definitely make sure that you connect with Josanta, because as you can see and as you've already heard, she's dropping the knowledge. So she's definitely going to take your brand to where you definitely need it to be. So with your experiences with CAA and the beauty brand that you've worked with, and now Great to Green, Grayscale Media, I know that sometimes it's kind of hard to answer this question, but what has been, some of your favorite collaborations or product placements that you've had?
Oh, this one I can answer. This is the one answer I give all the time. I was validated. We have all had those moments where we have worked in corporate America, where we have put our little heart and soul into a project, or trying to make our counterparts a little bit more woke to our experience. And so we do all of this to like show them that, and then they shoot it down. So that happened to me, where I put together a presentation explaining like why we should go into this particular area and focus on more POCs as far as like licensing and brand partnerships. I must say so myself, that presentation was beautiful. Yeah, okay. It had references that not just POCs would understand. Like it had references in there that they should understand from a pop culture perspective. And at the end of the day, it was like, no, there's no money in this. We shouldn't do it. So I'm sitting here with my tail between my legs, like, okay. And I'm still young at this point, and I don't have the confidence to go and make some of these things in their presentation come to fruition by myself. Because now that I think about it, it's like, I honestly should just go revisit it and like go down the list and like start doing it under Grayscale. But I was validated. This is why it was my favorite partnership. In that presentation that got chopped down, I had said, Power on Stars, 50 Cent show. Cult favorite, everyone loves it. We were all trying to figure out what Tariq was gonna do, and like we all love to hate him, all of the characters, whatever. I had mentioned like this would be a great show for us to figure out like licensing opportunities and brand partnerships. They really weren't doing anything at that particular time. Flash forward to me starting Grayscaled, I get connected with my client now, Colored Rain. Lorraine, absolutely amazing.
Yes.
founder who I've been working with since really the start of Grayscaled. And we got connected because I actually was reaching out about a different project, but just through natural conversation and me sharing my vision, what I've worked on before. I had mentioned, I worked in the licensing department at CAA, and she's like, really? See, this is nothing but God. I was like, why? She's like, I actually in talks with working with Power and Lionsgate to do a licensing deal. Like, she was literally about to sign on the dotted line. I was just like, favorite show, like completely had a love fest. And like, obviously years ago, this was an idea that I had that got shut down. But lo and behold, it comes back to me full circle. And I got to work on that with her. We went to Madison Square Garden for the final season and concert, and it was amazing.
Awesome. Congratulations. So see, that's what happens when we finally listen and take the and take the nudge. So that is great. That is awesome. So of course we know that, all those moments, it takes a lot. Like you said, you've been talking with someone since the beginning of the year for something that's going to happen almost 2 years from now. You had an idea before that got shot down, and then lo and behold, it comes full circle and you have this amazing opportunity. You have been like whipping it in the industry, making your mark. So what advice would you give someone who is looking to do, licensing or, with the type of, or the relationships, collaborations that you have, and they're looking to, do something on their own?
On their own, how? Do you mean like
another agency, or maybe if it's someone who can't afford your services or my services as a publicist, but they want to make, that initial contact, how should they go about it?
Definitely reaching out to the appropriate person and following directions. Like, it seems so simple, and like I don't want it to come off like condescending in a sense, but you'd be surprised how many people actually don't follow directions. And it'd be as simple as you decided to DM your favorite influencer and celebrity, and they give the email for their publicist, or they give the email for the appropriate person that you're supposed to connect with, and you don't do it.
Right.
Or you continue to DM them and don't follow the advice. So I think, especially when it comes to brand partnerships, just being mindful of following those directions, because I have had clients and talent from previous experiences of like, well, I'm not interested, because if they can't follow this particular direction, what is it going to be like to work with them? And, first impressions are lasting impressions.
Exactly. And, we would think that because we're attached to our phone, a DM might be simple, but if you're attached to your phone, an email is on your phone as well. So you can just copy and paste that email and send the same message, into the email. And then you also have people who will send attachments where they say, don't send attachments, send links. So like she said, you definitely have to follow instructions if you want to get, to where you need to be. So this has been awesome. I have already learned so much. I'm super excited about what is next for you and what you have going on. Is there any project that you have coming up within the rest of the year that you can share with us, something that you're looking forward to, either with Grayscale or Gray to Green?
Yes, on the Grayscale front, you'll have to follow me on Instagram and stay close, but I'll be announcing a couple of clients that are solidifying some of their retail onboarding. So that'll come to fruition later this year that we'll probably be able to announce. And then also stay close on the subject of brand partnerships. I am going to put together a brand partnership course, because I have gotten just a lot of questions on like, what is licensing? Like, what licensing 101? What's different between licensing and endorsements, and like, how should I go about it? So that is forthcoming for those that are interested.
Awesome. Well, I'm definitely going to keep my ear to the street so I can stay close to it and see and be ready when you launch everything. So we've already been talking, we've been flashing your information across the screen, but tell us how they can connect with you, what they need to do if they want to get a course, or if they want to hire you as a consultant.
Yeah, so please follow me on Instagram at Josanta G. And then you'll also see links to both from Grayscaled Media, which is my boutique consulting firm, if you want to work with me directly one-on-one. But if you just want information, resources, then check out from graytogreen.com. You can also, when you go onto that website, they'll flash for an email subscription, and you can sign up. I put discounts in my email newsletter, and every month send out a newsletter with different themes. So last month we talked about like chargebacks, and we also talked about like case packs and things. So I get really granular with some of the lingo, because I really want people to be able to come to the table when opportunities do come to fruition. I want you to be informed and already know, all right, I know this is this word, this in the vendor agreement, or I already know these are the things that I need to work out for because I'm part of her newsletter and her group.
Awesome. Thank you again, Josanta, for giving us some of your time today. Like I've already said, I've learned so much. I can't wait to see what else you have going on. We're definitely connected. So we'll be, chatting behind the scenes about whatever we have going on. So guys, thank you so much for joining us. It has been a great conversation. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. We definitely want to thank again Ms. Josanta for being a guest on the show today. Business Over Brunch airs every first and third Saturday. So please make sure that you're joining us here on YouTube. You can also listen to Anchor, Google Podcasts, and Spotify. And until the next time, be blessed and enjoy whatever is on your brunch menu. Have a great Saturday.